Hello, welcome to another episode of Cotton. And I'm so happy today. My guest is Ashok Lavasa, who was a former election commissioner, who was a very distinguished administrator. He was a 1980 batch IS, and he worked with in different position. He worked with government of Haryana, and then he also worked in many important positions, Secretary of Finance, and many other positions in government of India, Union government. And I would not like to go to those things that which led to his resignation from the election commission. So everybody knows about that. I'm not interested in that discussion and debate today. So, Mr. Lavasa, I welcome you to this program, and I'm extremely happy that you accepted this invitation and you spared time for our audience.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to speak to you and your audience.
Great. Now, Mr. Lavasa, my first question to you, without I straight away want to go to the SIR in Bihar. So, what do you think about the SIR in Bihar? And now, latest, this question has two parts. One is that the SIR, your opinion, your own reactions, comments on SIR in Bihar, one, and then the second part is now that the Supreme Court, there is an interim order of the Supreme Court. So, how do you see the interim order of the Supreme Court in this regard? So, please.
Okay, so let me deal with the second part of your question first. So far, the order of the Supreme Court, they have given two orders, one on 14th, the other on the 22nd. And if you analyze both the orders, the first order on the 14th was about transparency, that the 65 odd lakh names that were removed, the court ordered that they should be publicized along with the reasons for their non-eligibility for being included in the electoral roll. And they should be presented to the people in a way in which they can be easily understood. I think that is the sense that I make of the first order. Because the stand which was taken by the Election Commission was that those people can search for their status by individually getting into the website or through their EPIC number and find out that their name is not included. It was not technically treated as a deletion. It was treated as non-inclusion. So I think that was different from what was done in the past. But I'll not get into that at this stage. The second order, which was passed on the 22nd, has made the providing of documents a little simpler by the court specifically saying that Aadhaar card should be accepted as one of the documents which are necessary for production by these people who have not been included. So these are the two significant orders which the Supreme Court has passed so far. Now, as far as the SIR itself is concerned, one thing which I feel and believe is that revision of electoral rolls is very much within the powers of the Election Commission. The second thing is that everybody throughout the country, whether it is political parties or the voters or the Election Commission itself, they are all in favor of having error-free electoral rolls. And no one can do this except the Election Commission. There are provisions for revision of electoral rolls in the Representation of People's Act, and the procedure is also codified in the registration of electoral rules. So Election Commission is very much within its powers to do the revision. The question is whether the procedure followed during the Bihar's special intensive revision was the procedure which it has followed in the past, and whether the timing of the revision was appropriate. I think these are the questions which even the Supreme Court raised in its initial hearings. As you would recall, they said whether they are empowered, whether the process followed is correct, and whether the timing was right. So, as far as the timing is concerned, there are two angles to the timing. One is whether the time allowed for the exercise was adequate.
Enough,
Whether it was enough. The first stage, the second stage, the appeal, etc., whether that was enough. On that, there are two views. One view is that as far as the time allotted for every step is concerned, is more or less what it was done in the past. But then we don't have the 2003 order before us. So we don't know whether this is exactly the procedure which was followed in 2003 when Bihar's intensive revision was undertaken. But the more important thing, according to me, is that this revision exercise is to be immediately followed by the state assembly election. And that is what creates an element of uncertainty in the mind of the electors. And it also gives rise to a feeling of risking their franchise. Because if they are unable to complete the procedure, they will find themselves out of the electoral rolls. And mind you, and this is the last thing that I'll say as far as this question is concerned, you are dealing with people who are already in the electoral rolls. You're not dealing with new electors. So they are people who have entered your electoral roll after fulfilling a due process. And now, through the revision, they are being asked to prove their eligibility again. So there is always an element of risk associated with this exercise as far as the existing electors are concerned. And that is why I think there is so much anxiety and controversy over this exercise. Just one more point on this is that in the past, when revisions have taken place, the methodology followed was different than what is followed this time. So that is another cause for the uncertainty.
So this is now one can is it that our viewers who are listening to this conversation will know how politicians speaks and how a seasoned bureaucrat speaks, the difference, and one has to make the, you see, in at times even I find it quite interesting, even the court orders, simple sentences might be very, very meaningful, loaded with meaning. So whoever is watching this conversation, they'll have to make their own meaning from these passionate sentences. Now, madam, now, right immediately after this thing, I'm going to a little difficult question, and which is little political. Now, this next question is Rahul Gandhi, the opposition leader in the parliament. So he made certain serious allegations in his recent press meet. And he has been speaking for quite some time, for a few months now, and in his recent press meet. So he made his allegations, prove them with illustration, with examples and things with much detail. So, what is your call? What do you think about his, you see, revelation and about his press meet and his allegations?
Well, I think as far as the specific presentation that was made in which certain data, which was, it was stated that that data has come from the Election Commission. That data was analyzed and presented. And in the presentation, it was alleged that there have been some irregularities. The irregularities were classified into 4 or 5 groups, and specific number of electors were mentioned to be falling in one category or the other. Now, what I feel is that Election Commission of India is the custodian of all the electoral rolls in the country. And if an allegation of this nature is leveled against the irregularities in the electoral rolls, then Election Commission should take notice of that, and it should conduct a proper inquiry into whether these charges are correct or not. And it should make its findings transparent and bring it before the people so that the doubt which has been created in the minds of the people can be corrected. Now, no other organization is in a position to carry out this investigation and bring its finding to the people other than the Election Commission. Because no matter what anybody might say, it will remain allegations versus counter allegations that will not satisfy the people. As a public authority, if any complaint of this nature with so much of gravity is brought before any institution, I think the institution is bound to act, inquire, and reveal its findings.
So that is why if somebody is raising some allegations, some complaints, so government cannot do anything, anybody cannot do anything. It is the domain of the Election Commission. So Election Commission has to do it. Very good. And then next question actually follows from this question. This is, okay, Rahul Gandhi made certain allegations, and you have very clearly stated how the Election Commission should have reacted to it. But after Rahul Gandhi's press conference, few days after Rahul Gandhi's press conference, and when the opposition political parties in Bihar, they were launching a campaign against the Election Commission. They are calling it vote chori. Whether we agree, we disagree, that's a different issue. On the same day when they were launching this campaign, on the same day, Election Commission held a press meet, and then there were different questions by different journalists, and Paranjoy Guha Thakurta is a very eminent journalist, investigative journalist. Immediately after that, I also interviewed him. So he raised certain basic, very important questions. So what do you think? Do you think one way is that the holding of the press conference on the same day, is it a mere coincidence, or is it done by design or whatever? And finally, second part of my question, which is much more important. Do you think that this election commission, the questions raised in the press meet, do you think that the answers to those questions are adequate or satisfactory? There's two part in these questions.
See, as far as the timing of the press conference of the Election Commission is concerned, I cannot comment on why they decided to do the press conference at the time which they decided to do it. So, I mean, this question should be posed to the Election Commission, and people are free to draw whatever interpretation,
Their own conclusion, yeah.
they want to draw. But the fact is that I think this press conference did arouse a lot of expectations in the minds of the people, because an exercise of this nature, the intensive revision, was going on for more than 1.5 months, and Election Commission had not conducted any press conference. So people did expect that some answers to their questions will be provided, other than what was given in various press notes. At the same time, there was also this controversy about the quality of electoral rolls in Bangalore, and people obviously expected that the questions regarding that also would be answered. Now, see, Election Commission of India, Mr. Has always been very friendly to the media. And media has also been very friendly, generally, to the Election Commission. But in this particular press conference, I had a feeling, because, first of all, I did not have the benefit of watching the entire press conference. But from what I hear from people and the subsequent commentary, that a lot of people who had asked questions were not satisfied that their answers were given. So this is something which I think has not happened earlier, because whenever Election Commission used to hold press conferences, they were very patient with the questions, and they would try and answer all the questions, giving full facts and figures. Now, it is possible that people may not be satisfied with whatever answers you provide, but there was an attempt on the part of the Election Commission to address all the questions. The impression that I got was that the method of bunching 5 questions together, in that method, some of the questions did not get adequately addressed. And that is why this impression has been created that some questions were not directly answered.
No, I actually it was a very long press meet, 1.5 hours. So it's not possible to see the press meet entirely. But I also saw it in bits and pieces and in installments. In some parts, I saw it. What I felt that it was the answers, the way Election Commission answered the questions, if they were there's an element of patronizing. They were patronizing and consenting. So that is what the feeling I got.
Yeah, you see, it is possible for different people to draw their own conclusion, because as an observer, you will feel that you will carry your own impression. The person whose question has not been answered, he will carry his own impression. But what, as an outside observer, I would like to say is that I have never seen such reaction after any press conference conducted by the Election Commission in the past. And when I say such reaction, I mean a feeling of dissatisfaction, which has been voiced by so many people. So that leads me to feel that it was not the most satisfying experience for the media. And I think every question should have been properly answered. Of course, there is no room for any debate during the press conference. But then at the same time, Election Commission should not give the impression as if it is trying to avoid any question.
Now, you said something very interesting. You said that never in the past, election commission, election commission was very friendly to the media. And actually, election commission should be friendly to the media, and election commission should also be friendly to the people. Forget about the political parties. I'm saying that these people, they should be friendly with the people. Now, my next question is a little wide-ranging question. You see, now we have been there. I have this. There are many books. I am showing you these two books. Two books. This one is about How Democracies Die by Stephen Levitsky, and the other one is Democracy and Its Crisis. This one is A.C. Grayling, is a very renowned philosopher and political scientist. Now, why democracies are failing? Why democracies are not working world over? I think election process, election is a very important element of the periodic election is a very important element of democracy. Now, my question is, election process does not mean the day of election when this election happens and the day of its counting. Election process is there are many. It's an entity, and normally what should happen that the for the political parties they should actually contest the election on a level playing field and in a very you see conducive atmosphere. Now they're saying that okay, this if the election process, if the election is not held in on a level playing field, then how can we go? How can we find it's a proper representative of people? How the proper representative of people will be actually elected by the voters? Your call on it.
So, first of all, I think these two books that you showed, they are very important seminal books on the subject. I only want to say, Mr. Paresh, that we should not think that elections constitute everything about democracy. It is only a process of electing a democratic government, or it is a process of electing a government through a democratic process which has been guaranteed by our constitution. But democracy is much more than elections. And I don't think we are getting into that debate just now.
No, it's
But
not
your
possible.
question about the role and responsibility of Election Commission in providing a level playing field, I think that is a very important question. And it is because of this responsibility of the Election Commission that Election Commission has been given vast powers by the Constitution. That during the process of conducting elections or in work relating to elections, it enjoys supreme authority, almost unquestioned authority. And therefore, it has to exercise its authority in a way in which people, all political parties, think that they are being given equal treatment. Now, unfortunately, what has happened of late is that the expectations of people from the Election Commission have really gone very high. And they expect that even if the political parties are not conducting themselves responsibly, the Election Commission should come down heavily on them and discipline them. Now, of course, theoretically, that is the job of the Election Commission during elections. But then political parties exist even after and before the elections. So I think whereas Election Commission has to appear to be completely impartial, at the same time, political parties also have to introspect and see whether they are cooperating with the Election Commission in a way that people don't feel that the nature of our democracy and the nature of our institution is getting diluted. For example, Election Commission is like an empire, right? So if an empire finds that all players have become unruly, his task will become very difficult. So even the Model Code of Conduct, by the way, is a document which has been evolved after consulting all political parties. It is not something which Election Commission has imposed on them.
It is
Like
evolved.
it has evolved after a lot of consultation. And the process of consultation means that all stakeholders have some commitment towards it. So the commitment that political parties demonstrated when this document was evolved seems to be now flagging. That they don't think that it is important for them to adhere to the letter and spirit of the
contact.
So you might feel that we are adhering to the letter, but we will violate the spirit. And that is where I think the maturity of the political system comes into play. The second thing which I want to mention, Mr. Paresh, is that you see, political parties also have to be committed to clean and fair elections. And for ensuring clean and fair elections, we need a lot of electoral reforms. If you ask yourself a question, or if you ask every political party this question, that in the last 74, 75 years, which political party has kept electoral reforms in the forefront of their manifestos? I think the answer may not be correct. So we have to also keep questioning the commitment that political parties have towards free and fair elections, or is it that when you're in power, you want to get all the advantages of a ruling party, and when you're in opposition, you want to raise all the issues of unfair practice? It's a very serious question, which all of us have to ask. It is fine that Election Commission does have a role and a responsibility. It is also justified for people to feel that it may not be discharging its duties in the best possible manner these last few years. But the question is also whether the other stakeholders are equally committed to this cause.
This is actually in your answer, there are so many leads to many questions. We don't have time for that. But then your answer is laden with so many layers of, you see, things, and I'm very happy with this answer because one has to make out of this. Now our interview is also, it is coming to an end, and it is also intensifying in a manner. Now my this is the second. This is my fourth question, and fifth question. I'll end with the last question now. This question I'm reading it out to you. Yesterday, I had a long 2-hour panel discussion with a few eminent people, which included Prasan Bhushan, Wajahat Habibullah, Jahar Sarkar, and others. There, Mr. Habibullah said what interesting thing. He said something very interesting. I found it very interesting. What he said, our institutions have grown out of our constitution. Now that they are compromised, is it that there was scope for such compromises in the constitution?
Is that the question?
Yes.
Well, the answer to that is no.
No.
You see, if you look at the way various institutions have been conceived in the Constitution, you will find one thing very interesting, that all the institutions which have been created by the Constitution, Parliament, Supreme Court, High Courts, tribunals, Finance Commission, CAG, all these institutions, their work is dependent on the work of the government, except the Election Commission of India. The Election Commission's work is directly related with the people of this country, whether it is preparation of electoral rolls or it is the conduct of elections. Their work is not dependent on the work of the government. Yes, they do depend on the government machinery for carrying out this work, but they are very independent to decide the way in which they want to work. So I think Election Commission of India is unique in that way, and it owes a direct responsibility to the citizens of this country. And therefore, I could not agree more with Mr. Habibullah. But there is one more thing that I want to say. And that is that, you see, there is a difference between people occupying administrative positions and people occupying constitutional positions. When you are sitting in a constitutional position, let us say of a CNAG or of a court judge or in the election commission or any other position, you are committed to doing the thing which is legally correct. It may displease many people, but you are expected to adhere to what the law says. Whereas if you're in an administrative position, you are expected to find optimal solutions, where you may not find the best solution, but you will find a solution which is acceptable to most number of people. It may not be the best, but when you are in a legal authority, you have to do what is right, what is correct as far as the law is concerned. So I think that is the difference between the two. And therefore, I don't think there is any scope for people occupying constitutional positions to make compromises which are dictated by circumstances or by expeditious decisions. So I think that is very clear.
Yes. I think yesterday when this issue was discussed, that was also the conclusion. That was the conclusion. Now I'm coming to you see, all the questions and your answers are following in a very logical order. I'm coming, and this, whatever you said right now, the question I'm going to ask you is directly related to that. Here also I'll have to read out something. The honest, however, go on regardless, perhaps driven by an inner force that borders on recklessness. A society that creates hurdles which exhaust the honest or wound them paves the path for its perdition. So this I found, this is what you said these things. I found this in the Wikipedia. Now, government works. Actually, in your earlier questions, in my earlier question, you answered this in a way. Government works through central government and central, administrative, through the officers of central administrative staffs and state administrative staffs. Actually, who are they obliged to? Are they obliged to the constitution, or they are obliged to their political masters? And in the earlier answer, you went a little ahead. You said that the constitutional bodies, they are actually responsible. They have to see the fairness of the thing. So this is my last question. You have a meeting, so this is my last question, and this I am, with your quote only, I am asking you this question.
Well, Mr. Paresh, in my view, it may not be acceptable to everyone. But in my view, even the political executive is committed to the Constitution. They have to be, because they are creatures of the Constitution. And therefore, in terms of the commitment to upholding constitutional principles, I think it is the responsibility of everybody, whether in authority or even ordinary citizens, that we have to live by what our constitution expects us to do. So I think on that, there can be no
There is no compromise on that. There shouldn't be a second opinion.
yeah, I don't think there is any second opinion on this. We are all committed to doing and acting in a manner that we don't violate the Constitution. And
Letter and spirit.
sorry,
Letter and spirit.
in letter and spirit. And I also believe, I mean, when this article from which you have quoted, what I am trying to say is that if the society or the system, and I'm making a distinction because a system can be something which is created by governments. A society necessarily doesn't is created by the government. A society lives by its own norms, traditions, culture, moorings, whatever you call them. So it is, I think, the responsibility of any society or system to support what is correct. And if you reach a situation where either of these is creating impediments in the way that honest people function, or truthful people function, or right-minded people function, then I think we are creating more challenges for ourselves.
So that means actually, if we speak in terms of fairness, if we speak in terms of justice, so it is not the responsibility of one organ. It is the responsibility of all of us. It's the responsibility if something has gone wrong. So it's our responsibility so that you see the fair-minded people, the people who actually try to do justice, the society should support them, and rather there should be an environment in the society so that those people can triumph, those people can flourish, and they can walk more independently with a sense of justice and fairness. I
Absolutely.
I
Let,
I,
let, let me just say one more thing. For example, we say that government should create an environment in which people invest so that there is economic progress and there is employment and people get benefited by this investment. So similarly, I think governments and society have to create an environment in which people invest in values, and then those values can spread, and you have a larger body of people who share those values. So this is what civilizations and culture are made up of. You will find that whereas there may have been many countries which have a historical past, all of them are not called civilizations. But civilizations are created by societies which have created values, human values.
absolutely, universal human values. These are fundamental things. But I do not know how to thank you for your, you see, for sparing time and for the wonderful words. The same words as I felt it at the beginning of the interview, that in each answer, it's not the what you have said. There are too many things, there are too many layers of answers in that. So I do not know how to thank you. I'm so overwhelmed by your answers, and I'm so happy that you could spare time for us. But this should not be the last one. I'm telling you. I request you. So whenever there are questions, there are issues, I shall come to you, and you should spare time for us,
Thank you.
for the audience of the Northeast now and for the audience in this part of the country. I'm so thankful to you for sparing time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, bye.